Alteryx Ace. He's from Datacom. So let's welcome Adrian to the stage.
Thank you, guys. So thank you again for spending your afternoon with me. Really excited to be here. I came all the way from Sydney to share some of these experiences with you. So I hope you get some value out of this session. So just a quick show of hands. How many of you are analysts in the room? About half. And how many of you are data scientists? No one. Wow. Okay. So today's topic is really how you can effectively help your organization bridge the talent gap by creating citizen data scientists, and how to get a pay rise out of it as well. So consider this. How many of us would have thought that companies like Uber, Grab, and Netflix could disrupt entire industries just by leveraging their data? In today's world, every company is getting increasingly more data-driven. But at the same time, it's getting harder and harder to find skilled data scientists. It is actually my belief that citizen data science holds the key to solving this problem and are critical to the growth and survival of both new and iconic companies. So a little bit about myself. My name is Adrian Loong, and I've been an Alteryx user since 2014. So one of the early adopters down under. I've had a long career in analytics, and I'm currently the practice manager of data science and artificial intelligence for Datacom. I started my own career with analytics nearly 20 years ago. And since then, I'm really fortunate to have worked for some of the leading names in financial services, including the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, Citigroup, Westpac. In the insurance line, also IAG, QB. So really a lot of these large iconic brands. But I've also had the fortunate luxury of working for smaller organizations like Amazon in the telecommunications space as well. So all through my career, I'm really passionate about helping companies get to the next level, right? Really leveraging data to transform not just analytics, but their entire business operations. To me, Alteryx is really about the art of the possible. We are just normal people, but doing extraordinary things with this particular product. And those of you out there might be wondering, why is there a photo of me up in Disneyland? Well, it turns out that a couple of years back, I actually spent some time at a conference similar to this. And I was talking to some of the Alteryx founders, and they said, come visit us, we're at Disneyland. And interestingly enough, I actually went to Disneyland and they were 20 minutes away, so I decided to stop by at the office. So it's really a very interactive, immersive experience where you're not just buying a product, right? You're buying an entire experience and an actual community that's global in nature as well. So if there's one takeaway today, guys, like make sure that when you do visit Disneyland, drop by the head office. So today's presentation is really covering three major areas. What's a data scientist anyway? I think this is quite a common question for most people. How do you bridge the talent gap by creating your own citizen data scientist? And really focusing on how do you do analytics as a team? Because I think that's really, really important for your organization. So for those of you out there, what do you think a data scientist is? Anyone in the room care to answer that? Any takers?
Just using the sort of data, algorithms or anything out there to enrich what the analyst does in a more technical fashion. So instead of just focusing on the visualization, we're focusing on the algorithms and using that to come with models.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. I always tell people data scientists are unicorns. And it's hard to find a unicorn, right? The reason why they're so expensive is because they have skills in 4 key areas. The first of which, they have to be able to have a deep understanding of statistics. Some of them are actually PhDs in stats as well. The second of which is they have to program in multiple languages like R, Python, Scala. And then they have to be domain experts to be able to influence the business. And finally, they have to actually communicate to the business through visualizations or other mechanisms. So you can actually see it's incredibly difficult to find that unique individual, and that's why you pay them so much money. So anyone knows what a citizen data scientist is? Anyone can take a stab? So according to Gartner, a citizen data scientist is someone who actually creates or builds models that are advanced in nature, whether predictive or optimization, but whose primary job function actually sits outside of that, of data or analytics. In short, it's the person sitting in between the business analyst and the PhD statistician. So with tools like Alteryx, every single one of you in the room has this opportunity to really leverage the platform and become the citizen data scientist in order to deliver huge financial value to your organization. So the next question that I get quite often is, this is all getting too hard, why don't you just hire a bunch of PhDs to take care of it? Well, according to Microsoft, data science is really broken down into 5 separate stages. Getting an understanding of the business, preparing data from multiple source systems, doing the modeling, deploying the model into production, and then finally getting business acceptance. So the important thing to note in this presentation is that despite it being 5 steps, the reality is the bulk of the effort is in the first 2 steps, getting an understanding of your business and combining data from multiple systems. So with tools like Alteryx, any of you can actually achieve this quite simply. And what that actually means for the PhD statistician is that he has more time to actually focus on the modeling and explaining to the business, rather than spending tons and tons of time in the first 2 steps. A more funny thing that I'd like to talk about is, say you put together a business case and you go, hey boss, I want to hire 5 PhD statisticians. You know, it's only 250,000 each, right? And your boss says, very, very funny, show me the money. And he says, you ain't got no money. So that's the other reason why you should create in your organizations that citizen data scientist, because you can help your organization bridge this gap and be much more cost effective and deliver financial value back into your P&L. So the second part of the presentation is really, how do you effectively bridge this talent gap? I think a lot of people, when they start using Alteryx as a product, they think it's simply a product, when the reality is it's an end-to-end platform that enables you to do simple to complex analytics. It's that entire continuum. And the most important point is you don't actually need to do it in sequence. So take the simple ones, for example. Most people begin their analytics journey simply by automating a few manual business processes. Preparing data visualizations such as KPI reporting in a dashboard. That's really one of the major use cases that I see this platform useful. I started my own journey that way. But within a year or two, that evolved into something more. You start to deliver increasing value to your organization. Take, for example, self-service. Why would anyone always wait to go to a central team? We should empower our line of business analysts to have tools like this so that they can self-serve themselves. Another more advanced analytical topic is that of spatial optimization. A lot of people think it's a difficult topic, but the reality is every organization has customers. And you need to know where your customers are located. And you need to optimize both where you spend your marketing dollars on your existing customers, as well as how do you optimize your entire sales productivity chain? So Alteryx is that product where you actually start on the left, but as your skills grow as a team, you actually evolve and you become almost like a citizen data scientist. The other very common use case that I've seen in many organizations is, how do you know how much each channel actually spends, or how much each channel, whether it's retail or wholesale, really costs to serve your customers? So channel analytics. You can use this tool as you evolve along your analytics journey as well. And as you get more and more advanced, you might want to do things like pricing optimization, where you really deliver top-line benefits, or things like predictive maintenance, or even customer churn. So all these capabilities you can see really are within reach, right? They're not impossible for anyone. You don't have to be the PhD statistician. And trust me, I'm pretty ordinary, so if any of, if I can figure it out and watch some YouTube videos, I think you guys can do it too. So I'd like to sort of take you through the making of a citizen data scientist. There are 4 key personas I'd like to talk through. The first of which is customer service staff. The second of which is that of the finance analyst. The third of which is the sales analyst. And finally, the data scientist. So by show of hands, any of you are working in customer service operations within this environment? Anyone? One or two. What about any finance analysts in the room? FP&A? Okay, accountants, good. Sales analysts, anyone involved in sales or CRM? Great. And the PhD stats, I suppose I've lost them. Great. So, first of all, the first scenario is that you really can use this platform to upskill non-data literate people to become data literate. Take, for example, the customer service operations staff. All day long, it's a very difficult job. He's always measured on things like AHT, average handle times. He's got multiple legacy systems that he has to navigate and work on. So it's a really challenging environment. So all that person wants to do is just bring together data from multiple systems to make it easier for him to actually consume. So one night he decides that to download this product. He actually saw someone do it in the US. And he downloads this product and looks for Alteryx for Excel, right? If you know how to do a VLOOKUP, basically you know how to use this product. If you go to this website, it teaches you exactly one for one how to do a VLOOKUP and then how to use this product. So it's that simple. From a management perspective, what this actually means is that that person becomes very productive, and that productivity spreads through the whole office. And from a cost-based perspective, you actually shift the cost base of the company. So that's really the value of these products, not in the fact that they're just products in itself. So the second scenario I'd like to walk through is for the finance analyst in the room. I'm actually a CPA by training, so I spent 10 years doing financial planning and budgeting. And I think this slide really sums up 10 years of my life. You go every month to the ledger and you download all those journal entries, you merge it with your Salesforce or CRM customer system, and then you go and look at your product system, try to work out what the margins are. Does this sort of resonate with you guys? So with Alteryx, what it actually does is build an end-to-end data pipeline, right? I mean, if you think about it for a minute, this is 2019. Why are we waiting 10 days to understand our financial performance of last month? Right? We should know our financial performance in real time. So you might ask, what if I build this? Am I going to lose my job? Right? That's a very natural question to ask. Well, the reality is it's not, because all that extra time savings, you're going to start doing more advanced analytics, like doing ETS, Ariba forecasting, right? You're going to improve the forecast and spend more time influencing the business. Basically, it's doing what we're paid for, instead of trying to do VLOOKUPs in Excel. So another interesting one that I would highly recommend to all the users in the room is check out this course, Udacity for Predictive Analytics. So I started my own journey as well as an accountant. I did not know how to do predictive analytics. I did not know how to do spatial analytics. A couple of years ago, Alteryx actually brought all these courses together, and you can actually go and subscribe to it online. It's not expensive as well. Some of the best course material that I've actually experienced. So by doing this, you actually shift your career from becoming a FP&A professional to an analytics and insights professional. So the third scenario is really that of the sales analyst. I think I saw a couple of sales analysts in the room. So give you an example. Let's say your boss comes to you and says, you know what, I want you to grow our business. Find the segments that you want to grow in. And so what happens is you go and download data from your Salesforce or other CRM tool, whether it's Dynamics. You start merging with other source systems because of legacy. And it's just hard, right, to work out a run rate and where you want to invest your marketing dollars. So I think this is a really important slide because with Alteryx, you not only automate the data pipeline, but you're able to draw in pricing information from some of your competitor websites. I personally use the product to scrape my competitor websites every 10 minutes, so I know real-time pricing of what your peers are up to. On top of that, you can actually overlay it with demographic information from your bureau statistics. All these are typically freely available government data. So what that actually means is you can actually tailor your marketing to a very localized region, and you actually know how your market's performing at a very granular level at any time. But if you want to take it another step further, you can even do things like spatial and trade area matching. So what that actually means is, think about it from a customer point of view. If I were to buy a particular product or go shopping, I don't want to travel more than 10, 20 minutes, right? I want to just go to the nearest shop to buy my groceries. So being able to really tailor and find out where your customers are is really, really critical for the business. And finally, one for the PhD statisticians, so that I don't leave them out. I think most PhD stats people have difficulty deploying their models into production. What Alteryx actually does is being able to wrap it in a very user-friendly interface, right? You can actually take your Python and R code and wrap it in Alteryx. You can then give that code block to your citizen data scientist. What that enables you to do is that no longer does Dr. Machine Learning have to create and generate features. He can actually get his underlings to do the work for him, right? So he is much more productive as he's only focusing on the modeling and talking into the business as well. The other interesting point that I'll make here is a lot of PhD statisticians can't actually break it down and simplify it for the business. So by mentoring citizen data scientists, they actually improve their own communication skills. Because they have to break it down in a very simple way that resonates with people. So there's something in Alteryx for most people, including the PhD quant. So the third part of the presentation really focuses on analytics as a team sport. I think it's really important. You can't do things yourself, right? You have to work in teams. It doesn't matter if you're the most brilliant professor, right? The reality is we work in companies and we work both within our team and broader than our team. I think before you start that journey, it's really important to make sure you set a goal, right? I always hear people, oh, I want to have a data science team because it's fun, it's sexy. But they actually lose sight of the point that the team exists. And the point of the team is actually to do one of 3 or 4 things, right? The first of which is to have a competitive advantage for your company to drive a better customer experience. Therefore, you drive the better revenue performance. And that's why you use data science. The second of which is operational excellence. And what it actually means is that it's no good building a dashboard and just giving it to a business. One of my ex-general managers said to me, the reason why I'm paying you is not to build a dashboard. That's basic, right? I'm paying you because I want 50% of your time to actually sit with operation staff and teach them how to fish, teach them how to use this dashboard for their own KPI analysis every day. You're paid to actually embed that data-driven culture into the organization. And that includes building the dashboard, but more importantly, pushing it into the business. And finally, it's about self-service. You don't want to slow your company down. You really want to empower everyone in the line of business to deliver more. And that's why you use platforms like Alteryx, right? So they are very, very business friendly. You can actually build half a workflow, give it to a line of business who can then continue building the other half of the workflow, and then give it to your PhD quant. So it becomes a platform that everyone can use, not just the skilled SQL developer or the Python coder. And I think that perhaps is one of the most important things. It's really about focusing on three major areas, right? It's not just about buying the product. You have to look at it from a people perspective. I often see large corporates worried about change. Very siloed culture. Sales doesn't talk to marketing, doesn't talk to product, doesn't talk to finance. Or they only talk within in-country and not internationally. This is a very common occurrence. Sometimes it's due to the organizational size, but sometimes it's also because of the fact that they want to hold on to IP because then that makes their area relevant. Rather than doing that, leverage the Alteryx platform to really take away that fear of new technology. Share those learnings with your executive group. Make sure you get business sponsors in the room, right? It's not about getting the requirements and building it. It's about that continual iteration culture. The first product that you launch will not be correct. But the fact that you could do it in a week, that's what matters. And then you continue to iterate and accelerate. The second point that I'll sort of talk through a little bit is around process. I know process is normally a boring thing for most people, but it's really critical to identify how your company's business process actually impacts the customer. Identify what causes pain for the customer, and then use Alteryx to actually see if you can cut through that. In another scenario I walk through, you might have to modify your existing business process to capture information. Take, for example, I was building a pricing model for the bank, and for whatever reason, certain pricing code information wasn't captured. So really working together with the sales guys to create a new process so that I could capture that pricing information for your predictive model. And then finally, buy best-in-class tools. Tools like Alteryx, Tableau, AWS, Azure are pretty much stock standard tools that are world-class. I'm also a fan of things like Snowflake, Databricks. If you like, please reach out to me and I can show you an entire architecture stack of how Alteryx fits together with these tools. Really focus your analytic efforts not just on the tools itself, but really the business use cases. Because this is what ultimately you will be selling to your executive group. I often ask them, how do you really understand, do you know what your customers are actually doing? And most execs will say, yeah, of course we do, right? But I say, perhaps you only know how they're performing in your digital channels. Have you merged that with your offline channels? Do you holistically understand the customer end to end? Very few organizations do that. Self-service analytics. How do we get reporting, combine data ourselves without over-reliance on central teams? Business processes. Alteryx can actually be used to help re-engineer your business processes. One of the use cases that I see very often in large corporates is that they start on these multi-year journeys of change and then they run out of IT money, right? It's very, very common. But with Alteryx, you can actually use this product to augment that and prototype in it and deliver that new business process very quickly. You could also use it for optimizing of pricing, and this is one of the key use cases that I always try and encourage you guys to look at how you can deliver this, because once you do try and look at pricing, typically the senior execs, especially the CFO, is very interested due to the magnitude of what it means for the company. Financial performance, I think link the operational drivers to your actual P&L drivers. Often I see as FP&A people, we're very good at building a P&L, but we're not very good at holistically linking all the operational lead indicators to your P&L outcomes. And finally, delivering data to external parties. So all of us don't exist in a vacuum. You know, companies need to deliver data externally to other parties as well as other vendors, so you can use the same product. Yeah, set up monthly user groups within your own organization, right? Bring people together. I always say, if there's anything you remember about today's presentation, remember to bring the food and drink. Right? Everything else is nice to know. If you can get people together, whether it's with alcohol or food or whatever it is, people will come. And give them the opportunity to actually present to executives as well, right? Position it in a way that it's actually networking for the analysts in order to make them visible to senior executives. You can also adopt a cross-functional hackathon that you can run every month, that people go, you know what, I've got this really burning thing that I want to do, and this is a real problem in my job that I really want to do it and get rid of it, and therefore, let's run a hackathon, let's just build an Alteryx workflow to fix a business process. Look for and empower passionate people in your organization to solve businesses' challenge. You don't actually need a cultural change specialist, right? And I'm one of the Alteryx aces in there. I would say we are just ordinary people like you. But because of our shared commitment, we are able to achieve extraordinary outcomes for our company. So I highly recommend you to go to community.alteryx.com. Check out all the different use cases that a lot of us have shared, as well as other people who are non-Alteryx aces. You will find that huge availability of information and insight, whether you are in finance, sales, product marketing, much more than today's presentation if you go to the website. Registration for our account is free as well. And very interestingly, because the community is very engaged, you can actually send messages to people. The person actually published each of the use cases. If you send them a message, often you can actually call them up and say, how did you do this, right? So they're allowed to publish something, but if you want more detail, they're happy to speak over the phone. So for those of you that are leaders in this room, it's really critical to upskill your team using a structured training program. You'll be pleased to note that product certification, both core and advanced, are actually free. So please go have a look, do the weekly challenges, do your certification. The way we did it in our previous organization in the banks, we actually made a game, right? So how many of us could get certified in the shortest amount of time? Made a sort of a betting session. The other course that I really highly encourage those of you to do is the Udacity Predictive Analytics course. That's really a very simple and easy way to get into data science for those of you that are interested.